Hey, what's up, guys? It's Apollo Uchiha here, back with the next part of What If Naruto Had Asuras Memories. And yeah, as you guys can hear my voice, I'm still not feeling well, but I am feeling well enough to put on a video. So yeah, thank you for your comments in the previous post, wishing me good health. And yeah, if you haven't, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of the channel. And without further ado, let's continue with our story. Obviously, Konoha Gakure wouldn't know what hit them. Konoha Stadium. Many villagers, civilian, and shinobi alike were gathering at the stands to spectate the exciting final stage of the Chunin exams. The remaining 8 competitors stood at their assigned positions in the viewing platform, mentally preparing themselves for their upcoming battles. Above the spectator stand was a box for the Kages and the daimyos to view the match from a higher vantage point. Today's match will be interesting, don't you think, Hokage Dono? The leader of Konoha nodded. Indeed, I heard that the 3 Suna participants are your children. Let's see how well they do. The Kazekage gave a low laugh. Down below, where the competitors were standing, Naruto was catching up with Sayuri about their training progress. The Uchiha was impressed by his sage techniques, while the blonde couldn't help but admire her dojutsu, which had clearly advanced much in the past 3 weeks. With the help of Kakashi, the crowd quietened when the proctor and other Tokubetsu Jonin started speaking. Good morning, Hokage-sama, Kazekage-sama, Daimyo-sama. Distinguished guests, contestants, and fellow villagers, I am Shiranai Genma, the proctor of the Chunin exams finals. Due to certain issues, the original proctor, Gekko Hayate, was unable to make it today. I will be referring the 7 matches today. Genma turned to the 8 participants. The rules are quite simple. When I say start, Naruto tuned him out at this point as Genma was repeating what Hayate had said before. Whether you win or lose, you may or may not be promoted. It all depends on your performance during the match. Any questions? The Tokubetsu Jonin looked around at the contestants as he chewed on his senbon. None? Then without further ado, let us begin with the first match of schedule. Uzumaki Naruto of Konoha Gakure versus Neji Hyuga of Konoha Gakure. Since the 2 shinobi knew that they would be fighting, they were already down in the arena, a huge circular field of grass surrounded by high concrete walls. Genma eyed the 2 carefully. Neji was sizing up his opponent, who didn't seem too different from before, except that he appeared to be slightly more built. Naruto watched the Hyuga movement just as closely. Uzumaki knew that he was up against a taijutsu expert. Using ninjutsu would certainly cement the match result, but where's the fun in that? He had promised to beat the Hyuga, and what could be better than doing so in his own forte? Naruto wasn't just aiming to win the match, he was aiming to crush the Hyuga, and waking him up from his arrogance and fatalist philosophy. In short, to pull the long stick out of his ass. Neji smirked and said, I can't wait to see the discouraged look in your eyes when you realize you cannot win because fate has already declared me the winner. Naruto barely concealed in a laugh. I believe the proctor said his name was Shiranai Genma, no fate. Now, will we fight or we are just going to stand around and talk all day? To engage a Hyuga in taijutsu would be suicide unless he had the right countermeasures prepared, and he did. Naruto closed his eyes, where orange pigments began to form. Neji narrowed his opalescent eyes at this onset. He closed his eyes as well. The veins surrounding them began to bulge. Dance. Kakashi took notice of the orange markings around Naruto's eyes and pulled his headband to take a closer look. His eyes widened. It couldn't be. Naruto had mastered Senjutsu? Sayuri was excited to see the extent of his new power. What was Sageborn like? Arena. Genma knew from a single look that this fight would be intense. He prepared to jump back as he announced, Now then, the first match. Hajime. White eyes snapped open to meet the fierce gaze of Yellow, toad-like irises. Both slipped into their respective taijutsu-style stances. Naruto raised his left hand, beckoning taunting the Hyuga in a come-hither gesture. Koi. Naruto took off towards Naruto and started with a right hook which the blonde blocked. The Hyuga followed up with a series of shots which Naruto either stopped or dodged. Neji went for a low kick that Naruto avoided by jumping back. The Hyuga then made use of the momentum by launching his foot at the blonde in a high kick. Naruto, however, jumped up, just narrowly slipping by Neji's foot. He landed after a backflip and lunged at the Hyuga while forming a hand seal. Kagebunshin no Jutsu. 2 shadow clones burst into existence next to him, joining the original in a sprint. They went ahead of him and tossed themselves at Neji. The Taijutsu expert intercepted the attacks one by one, knocking the first aside while planting a foot into the second one, which came flying. Both disappears into smoke. The original waved his hand across the Yuga's face before throwing a punch in a bid to execute a blind spot attack. But as he had already guessed, that was weakness and pointless against the Bakugan as it could see through his hand. Neji smirked and swerved his head to the side, awaiting a fist, or so he thought. The next second, he was flat on the floor, his right cheek in intense agony for an invisible assault. Was his cheekbone broken? This shocked the whole crowd of spectators as Naruto had clearly dodged the punch. The Hyuga glared at Naruto as he recovered quickly and got up on his feet. What was that? The Hyuga tried to say, but it came out more garbled because the right side of his mouth felt like it was on fire. Naruto didn't answer, instead continued a barrage of attacks on Neji. This time the Hyuga was more wary, and when he could, he would put distance between himself and Naruto. As Hyuga, this made him uncomfortable as he was used to fighting in close range. Suddenly the Hyuga noticed the orange markings fading away from Naruto's face. With a confident look, he declared, "Looks like your power has worn out, Naruto. What will you do now?" This time his words came out properly as the pain subsided. "I'll beat you." The Uzumaki formed the Shadow Clone seal. 5 clones appeared and rushed at the Hyuga. Neji was no longer wary of getting the closer quarters with his opponent, and he dashed out towards Naruto, forming his usual Jukin kata and obliterating the clones. At one point, all the clones jumped at Neji. All wall of chakra formed around the Hyuga like a shield before he spun around. 8 trigram, palm revolving heaven. The shield of chakra rotated and expanded rapidly, throwing the clones off and dispelling them with great force. Stance. Hyuga Hiyashi, head of the Hyuga clan, was impressed but had a frown on his face. The Kaiten was supposed to be a main house technique, only passed down through the orally. How did a branch member like Neji learn it? He was a genius. Truly he was. Arena earlier, while Neji was distracted with the clones, the original weaved the hand seals from the summoning jutsu. Mount Miyabuku, 5 clones sat in a meditative position around the sacred oil fountain, a mass senjutsu chakra with the abundance of natural energy present in the arena. One of them disappeared into smoke as it felt its summoner calling, beckoning it through space-time. Arena. Naruto dispelled the shadow clone and felt natural energy returning to his body. Neji had just thrown off the clones and was charging at Naruto with a kunai, noticing how his eyes were closed. To his great shock, the Uzumaki executed a open palm thrust, with his eyes still closed, shattering the kunai into shards of metal. Neji scowled in annoyance when he noticed the orange pigments around Naruto's eyes, realizing that somehow his power had returned to him. Naruto closed the distance between him and the Hyuga, executing a swift punch. Neji narrowly dodged it and pushed his hand away. The Uzumaki made his use of the momentum and spun clockwise in a tornado kick. Neji's eyes widened as he realized what was about to happen, and quickly brought up his hands to his side. Unfortunately, that did not do much to soften the impact of Naruto's kick. Upon contact, Naruto's senjutsu enhanced foot propelled the Hyuga backward, sending him rocketing straight into the arena wall 30 meters away. Take Neji's word for it. Tumbling across the floor before smashing into hard concrete was not fun at all. With a groan, he pulled himself out of the mini crater he made with the wall. "I have to end this quickly," the Hyuga thought as he sprinted towards Naruto. Once again, they engaged, and this time Neji was prepared. He weaved in and out of Naruto's range, and the moment he saw an opening, he went for it without hesitation. "Gentle fist start, body blow," Neji exclaimed as he delivered a 2-hand strike with the blast of chakra. Naruto was momentarily stunned as he was hit, but the burst of chakra, he was launched 2 meters back from the impact, crashing onto the grass. Thankfully, his sage mode had increased his threshold for pain more than before, so it was not that bad. Neji smirked as he entered a new stance. "You are within my range. You cannot escape my 8 trigrams." Stance. Hiyashi was taken aback to think a member of the branch house had learned the taijutsu move. Arena. As Naruto recovered, Neji took no chance and lunged at Naruto with great ferocity. The Hyuga struck the Uzumaki with double 2-finger thrust. 8 trigram, 2 palms, 4 palms, Neji called as he struck once again, sending his chakra through Naruto's body with piercing the shut down his tenketsu. 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, the Hyuga shouted as he repeatedly slammed a finger into Naruto with increased speed. A trigram, 64 pounds, Neji exclaimed as he sent the last 32 executive burst of chakra into the Uzumaki's body. With a strong step forward, shutting down 64 of the 361 tenketsu, Naruto flew back and landed on the floor, his chest in incredible pain. His breathing became shallow as the chakra flow in his body stopped. The blonde tried to get up, but failed to know that his body was failing him. Neji declared with a smirk as he turned off his Byakugan. Why do you try so hard? I told you already, a failure will always be a failure. Look at your pathetic state, trying to wore yourself out of the destiny that has been set for you. Naruto brought forward in anger. Weren't you the same by trying to kill Hinata? Isn't your destiny as a branch member house to serve the main house? Why are you killing your masters? Are you not going against your own fate, Neji? The Yuga growled. You do not understand. I will never be free of the fates which binds me. He took off his headband, revealing a curse seal. This is the cage bird seal. A curse seal, branded on the branch house of the Yuga clan by the main house. Anytime a branch member does anything to defy the main house, we are at their mercy. Or for a simple hand seal will destroy our brain cells and seal our Byakugan at death. It will never be erased, not until death consumes us. Many years ago, during the Yuga affair, Kumogakure had village hidden in the clouds. Had's ninja kidnapped Hinata-sama on her third birthday. We managed to kill him and retrieve her. However, Kumo demanded Hiyashi-sama's body as a compensation for the death of her head ninja. At this, Neji turned to the Yuga clan head. Hiyashi-sama twin brother Yuga Hiyashi and my father was sent in his place. He was killed by his own twin brother with the cage bird seal, said Neji bitterly. The act averted war, and Kumo did not get the Byakugan either. However, I lost a father. Do you see why now? The branch house will always die to protect the main house. There is no exception. Stands. Hiyashi winced. So he was the reason his nephew was this way. Perhaps it was time to show him the letter Hiyashi has left for him. Arena Naruto frowned as he fought the soreness in his body. And yet here you are today, having progressed so far into the Chunin exams and even defeated the Yuga heroes, whose fate was supposed to be always being superior to you. Isn't it ironic? The thing is, hard work will always defeat the genius. Genius often results in arrogance and complacency, while hard work is a sure path to continuous self-improvement and victory over those with natural-born talent. Neji noticed Naruto slowly getting up and narrowed his eyes. Why do you still insist on resisting your fate? Can't you see it plainly? You'd never defeat me, as fate had already declared long ago that I will win this match. Because, said Naruto as he stood up finally, regaining his full balance, you call me a failure. If that's what it takes, I'll defeat you and show you fate is irrelevant to final outcome. The Yuga was taken aback. How was Naruto still standing after the attack? A person who fell under these 64 pounds would usually be unable to get up for at least a month, and that was provided the assailant had missed vital organs that would have caused death otherwise. Naruto brought his hands together in the ram hand seal, electing a smirk from Neji. Go ahead and try. You'll see that his pointless. All of a sudden, the air in the arena became thicker and denser. It became much harder to breathe. This was surely the precursor to something bad. Without warning, orange chakra flooded through Naruto's system, forcefully opening his closed tenketsu. The sheer power of the release of chakra caused the ground underneath the Uzumaki to crumble and shake. Fierce winds broke out and tore the blades of grass, nearly asunder, the remnants of which circled the blonde in a storm of plant parts. The few trees in the arena had cracked, forming along their barks from the pressure of the potent chakra presence. Adorned on Neji's face was a look of pure horror as he reactivated his Byakugan. It should have been impossible to force open the tenketsu after it had been closed without another Yuga intervention. Was that orange chakra even chakra? The wind surged through the stands relentlessly, ruffling the spectators' hair and blowing loose items away. Sayuri smiled as her hair fluttered, recalling the time when Naruto first tested for his chakra nature affinity. So this was the chakra of Asura, and that Indra has spoken about. Kagebok, such power. This must be the Kyuubi's chakra, thought the disguised snake Sanin. Wait, no, there isn't a demonic feeling to it. This is the fabled chakra of the Uzumaki clan. The Yukage was impressed. Is this the chakra of the Otsutsuki Asura? It is overpowering, reminiscent of Hashirama-sama, thought Hiruzen Arena. Just as suddenly as it came, the wind died down. The orange chakra receded back into his body, and to any ordinary bystander, it would have appeared as if it had dispersed completely. The Yuga, however, knew better. His Byakugan clearly saw the orange chakra concentrated within his body, almost bursting, but not quite so. Naruto's eyes were different from before. A single slit ran across the horizontal bar in his eyes. Now the Uzumaki executed an aura of confidence and self-assurance. That was a look Neji recognized and did not wish to see on his opponent's face. On the surface, he appeared calm and focused, but make no mistake, within, like his namesake, was a maelstrom of energy waiting to be released. Ikuzo, Naruto uttered. Just like that, he disappeared in a flash of speed. Neji was stunned. One did not simply just disappear like that. The Uzumaki appeared behind the Yuga in midair, several projectiles in hand in rapid succession. He fired them off at Neji. The taijutsu expert quickly dug his feet into the ground and initiated a rotation. Kaiten! They bounced off harmlessly the chakra shield, after which Neji grabbed one of them out of the air. Take this! He exclaimed, launching them with high speed at the airborne Uzumaki. Shock and fear shook the Yuga as Naruto evaded the attack with ridiculous swiftness once again, leaving the kunais and shurikens penetrate the arena wall. Impossible, the Yuga thought, as the blonde rocketed at him with blind speed, ramming a fist full of chakra into his face. The pain told him it was possible. It plunged into a face without remorse, catapulting him into another section of the arena wall with extreme prejudice. This time, the front part of the wall exploded from the impact. The concern slowed down the Yuga's momentum by a little, but this inertia continued, forcing him down the path through the wall. Just as he was about to break through the other side of the wall, Neji came to a stop. Many bones were broken. Right now, he was in so much pain, he could not even begin to describe it. His face probably needed destruction. After this, Naruto strode towards the Yuga and pulled his body out of the wreckage formed by the bottom of the wall. He passed his hands over Neji's face, sending Yoton chakra into his body. The Uzumaki mended most of the broken bones, recertifying the immediate damage. Naruto sighed as he healed the Yuga. That pompous ass deserved every single broken bone and torn ligament. As he did so, the Uzumaki stared into Neji's Byakugan, which was little now. A failure will always be a failure, Naruto repeated mockingly, with a purposefully poor imitation of Neji's voice. Do you see this truth, Neji? You can always resist fate. If you don't like your circumstances, there is always something you can do to change it. Your fate is what you want it to be. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Then he stood up. Genma raised his hand in Naruto's direction. Shosha, Uzumaki Naruto! Surprisingly, the crowd cheered loudly for him. They must have been sick for Neji's fate. Bullshit as well. Kagebox. So all in favor of Uzumaki Naruto's promotion to Chunin? The Hokage prompted. The Kazekage and the two daimyos raised their hand, as did Konoha's leader himself. Alright, said the Hokage as he input the results into the system. All in favor. Yuga Neji, promotion to Chunin. Only the Wind Daimyo raised his hand. Despite Neji's natural powers in taijutsu as a Yuga, his attitude was troublesome for a Chunin undertaking missions and for teamwork as well. Stands. Naruto returned to Sayuri's side. The Uchiha gave him a look of approval. Good job. Your senjutsu was very interesting, to say the least, Sayuri remarked as she looked pointedly at the damaged concrete walls. The Uzumaki blushed in embarrassment. Oops, I tried to hold back as much as I could. I still have a lot of ninjutsu in my arsenal, but I didn't want the whole world to know the full extent of my power. And also, I want to beat him with taijutsu only. Sayuri nodded in understanding. Down below, the proctor announced the second match. Aburame Shino versus Sabuko no Gaara. Sabuko no Kankuro, sorry. The Sunanin, who was standing nearby in the stands, yelled down, I forfeit. The crowd cheered, but Kankuro knew he needed to conserve his energy for what was about to come. Genma blinked before continuing. The winner by forfeit is Aburame Shino. Kagebox, Okage-sama. I suppose none are getting promoted. The Kazekage questioned the age. Hokage replied, Indeed. I'm surprised your son didn't participate, though. I was looking forward to witnessing the craft of Kogutsukai from Sunagakure, given the fame and origin of the art. Hiruzen had a tone of suspicious in his voice. The Kazekage responded with, My son was always a shy one. Now the Hokage was sure the man next to him was Orochimaru. The murder of Gekko Hayate had raised his suspicions, and what the Kazekage had said was clearly a lie. From what Hiruzen had seen in the preliminaries, Kankuro was clearly not a shy one about using his powers to take down his opponent in a brutal and aggressive fashion. He raised his guard as his gaze returned to the match arena. Third match, Nara Shikamaru of Konoha versus Sabuko no Temari of Sunagakure. Genma called. Shikamaru held back curses. He was hoping the second match would give him more time to relax, but no, it just had to end before it even started. He had half a mind to follow Kankuro, but knew that his mom would not hesitate to slay him if he forfeited without even trying. Mendokse. The Nara groaned as he came face to face with the blonde from Suna. He already thought ahead. She was clearly a long-range fighter with that fan of hers. He was a short-range fighter and wouldn't stand a chance against her if there was a distance between them. He would have to rely on the pre-existing shadows on the floor from Naruto's battle. Time was also not on his side. As the longer the match dragged on, the closer it became to noon, when the shadows were a lot shorter. Hopefully his new technique would come in useful. Hajime. Immediately Shikamaru's hand flew into the red hand seal, initiating the Nara clan's famous technique, Kagame no Jutsu. His shadows turned jet black and shot towards the Suna Konoichi, who leapt back and distanced herself. After a good 15 meters, the shadow stopped, chasing her and came to a stop. Temari brought her fan down and curved a line across the floor, demarcating the line between the safe and danger zone. Looks like this is the limit to your technique. As long as I didn't cross this line, you'll never catch me, she declared with a confident smirk. Kagebox, my daughter is smart after all. Being able to deduce the mechanics of the Nara clan's hidden ninjutsu is such a short time, commented the Kazekage. The Hokage smiled. We'll have to see. After all, the other famous thing Naras have is their strategical intelligence. For all we know, this could be a part of Nara's ploy. Arena. Shikamaru groaned as Temari opened her giant metal fan with a flicker of her wrist. Grabbing the bottom with both hands, she swung at it with Nara with great force. Futon. Wind blade jutsu. A huge gust of wind picked up and rushed towards Shikamaru, forcing him to release the shadow possession and take cover behind trees in the arena. The wind tore up everything in its path, decimating trees into logs and splinters of timber. This soon became a game of cat and mouse. Whenever Temari fired off a blast of Futon chakra, Shikamaru would take cover in a new tree. This happened until every single tree in the vicinity was brought down, littering the whole floor with wood. There's nowhere to hide now, Nara. I got you, Temari said suddenly. Shikamaru began to laugh. No, I got you. From behind his back, he tossed a flash bomb up. It exploded and released bright light upon the arena, momentarily blinding the Sunanin and darkening every shadow in the arena formed by all the destroyed wood. In the instant, Shikamaru's hand danced from the rat to bird hand seal. Ninpo. Kage Nui no Jutsu. To Temari's shock, blade tendrils materialized from thin air and shot towards her, binding her in an intricate network of shadow chains. Even after the light died down, they still kept her trapped. Satisfied, Shikamaru waved his hand to one side. A single tendril wrapped around Temari's fan and discarded it further away from her, such that it was out of her reach. The tendrils from the shadow stitching technique reverted to that of standard shadow possession. Paralyzing the blonde, Shikamaru relaxed as he contemplated what to do. He could make her forfeit like what he did to Kin in the preliminaries, but if he did so, he would have to become a Chunin, and being a Chunin was drag. The responsibility that came with being one was way too troublesome for his liking, and he could technically tell his mom that he tried to fight so she wouldn't kill him. He made up his mind and looked up at the Temari, who had a look of fear and anticipation for what he was about to do, since he could now make her do literally anything. I. Nara Shikamaru forfeit this match, declared the Nara. Nara Shikamaru forfeit this match. The Suna Konoichi found herself repeating, much to her surprise. Without even bothering to wait for the announcement, Shikamaru released his Kagame and walked away. The proctor was amused. There was really no end to Nara's laziness. Winner by forfeit, Sabuko no Temari. The crowd was in uproar over the wasted victory. Clearly many had betted on the Nara to win. A small section of the crowd was bursting in peals of laughter. They were the people who had guessed such an outcome from the Siskon of the Nara clan, Kagebox. The Hokage chuckled before regaining his regal demeanor. Turns out that Nara was a genius after all. All in favor of Nara Shikamaru promotion to Chunin. All four degenerates present raised their hands. Despite his laziness, it was clear he thought very far ahead during this match. The first Kageman was to induce Temari into thinking that it could not go any further, and that she had it all figured out when she didn't. Next, by keeping his distance, he easily tricked her into using her long-range techniques and forced her to destroy all the trees in the arena, which seemed removed his cover, but actually provided him the necessary shadow to extend his technique. They had coupled with the flash bomb, which served to blind her as well, allowed him to bind her with the shadow stitching jutsu and end the match, all in favor of Sabuko no Temari promotion to Chunin. The Hokage called. The two Kages and Fire Daimyo raised his hand. The Sono Kunoichi, though she had been outfitted by the Nara, was a rather good analyst and futon user in her own right. Alright, the Hokage affirmed. As he approved both their promotions, their attention returned to the fourth and most highly anticipated match. Arena. Genma cleared his throat to get the spectators' attention. They fell silent once more. The fourth match, Uchiha Sayuri versus Sabuko no Gaara. The Jinchuriki smiled demonically as he made his way down to the floor. In contrast, Sayuri had an air of indifference. Their eyes met in what was an intense moment. Gaara's teal eyes held only bloodlust. He gave a low laugh. I'll enjoy spilling your blood, Uchiha. Sayuri was not affected at all, unlike the Tokubetsu Jonin proctoring the match who was feeling uneasy. Hajime. Genma yelled and jumped away without hesitation. Sayuri took off towards the redhead at her usual speed. Gaara waved his hand in a frenzy, causing the sand to burst out of his gourd and fly at the Uchiha. She weaved in and out of the sand projectiles, skillfully evading them. Sayuri then noticed a clump of sand floating above him and braced for an attack. Sand drizzle. Sand clotted into lump and shot off at high speeds toward the Uchiha. She leapt away, escaping the explosion where she was previously. Flipping, she repeated dodged the numerous bullets which fell like rain. At one point, they began to overwhelm her. She formed the tiger hand seal. Gokyaku no Jutsu. Fire erupted from her lungs and swept out defensively against the falling sand, superheating it to glass. The glass dome shattered as Sayuri burst out of it and sprinted towards Gaara. She yanked her Chikoto out of his scabbard and swept it at Gaara. As expected, the sand at his feet rose to his defense and trapped the sword. Her grip tightened while she channeled Raithon chakra through the Chikoto, causing it to crackle with electricity which loosened the sand's hold. She jumped onto the sand wall and in a single fluid moment pulled out the Kusanagi while backflipping away. She brought her free hand to her mouth after forming one-handed seal, Katon, Hosenko no Jutsu. She spat several fire bullets at Gaara, who retaliated with sand to snuff out the airborne flames. While his attention was still at the sky, the Uchiha dropped to the floor and charged at him with far greater speed than before. Sayuri disappeared. Akin to Naruto's earlier, Gaara could only gasp in shock and had a mere 2 seconds to brace for the impact. All the crowd heard was a loud boom before Gaara was thrown with a great force crashing into the wall. The Jinchuriki coughed and found a warm crimson liquid existing in his mouth. What is this? Kazan, it's my blood. Kazan, my blood. Gaara howled determinedly. His siblings were shell-shocked. No one had ever drawn their brother's blood, ever. They could only imagine his mental state now. He rose slowly, glaring at Sayuri, who returned the stare coldly. He slammed his hands together. The sand rumbled and surged towards the Uchiha quickly. Stabbing Kusanagi into the soil, she intoned, Chidori grunt. Raithon chakra exploded out from the sword and radiated towards, pushing back the sand with the elemental advantage. Uchiha, where are your famous red eyes? Show them to me, Gaara hollered, directing more sand at her. Sabuko Q. The minerals in the floor beneath her was crushed into fine sand, which burst out and wrapped around her. There was nowhere to run, as the whole arena had been transformed into a giant sandbox. Sand surrounded her and clutched her within its grips. The red-head Jinchuriki cackled evilly, his voice noticeably calming down as he closed his fist. Sand burial. The sand closed in on her, imploding. Sayuri! Naruto screamed from the sands as he witnessed the death of his teammate. A huge cloud of sand was thrown off from the implosion of the sand coffin, obscuring viewers from the scene. Suddenly, a purplish aura appeared in the haze. When the smoke cleared, it was revealed to be a huge humanoid chakra construct protecting the last Uchiha, who looked relatively unscratched. Her right eye was now black with a red atom model, the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, while her left was the eye of the six spots. Her right eye converted back to the vermilion shade of the three Tomos. Sharingan and the Susanoo disappeared as Sayuri formed three hand seals, focusing her left hand becoming covered with copious amount of lightning chakra, which rumbled with the sound of the thousand birds. Chidori, Sayuri whispered under her breath. Without warning, she charged at the Suna Jinchuriki, who immediately began collecting all the sand in his vicinity to prepare to protect sphere around him. The A-rank Raiton Jutsu easily penetrated Gaara's ultimate defense, but came to a stop just as it breached the wall as Sayuri's arm was unable to reach any further. Through the sand, Gaara had made the wall about 75 centimeters thick. Her eyes twitched as she noticed an increase in the chakra of the sand nearest to her. Quickly, she withdrew her arm and flipped away, just in time to avoid getting impaled by long, sharp spikes of sand. They receded into the ball, inside which Gaara was chanting the hand seal sequence for a technique. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt a rising sense of dread from a malevolent source of chakra. He knew this feeling. Gaara was about to release Shikaku. Simultaneously, the sphere of sand crumbled and revealed a titanic tanuki the size of an apartment block. It skin the color of sand and blue markings running randomly along its body. Simultaneously, a war horn in the distance sounded. A powerful genjutsu of illusionary feathers fell on the spectators, causing them to enter a deep sleep. Outside the walls of Konoha, troops of Sunagakure and Otogakure breached the defense and entered the village. The invasion had begun. As this is where I'm going to be leaving this part off, guys. Sorry about the mispronunciation in this video. If there are any, I know there are, but obviously I will be uploading movies once I feel totally recovered and better, but until then you have to bear with the parts. Sorry about that, but yeah, as this is